My name's David Beck. I felt strongly enough to get involved in opposing this scheme on the Weir, fundamentally because it generates almost nothing in the way of electricity, and that electricity doesn't even help the village at all, and in return you get an iconic view of the village which will be ruined, plus increased sound level, plus potential flooding risk, plus potential environmental damage to fishing, etc., for virtually no benefit whatsoever. And that seems to me a pretty lousy deal for the people of Goring.
Why is the Angling Trust interested in this project?
Well, we're interested in hydropower, Anthea, right the way across the country, but we're particularly interested in the Goring scheme. Our technical specialist has put in a formal objection to the hydropower scheme here at Goring because we think it would damage fish and wildlife. This is a very, very important spawning habitat for fish. And of course, if you take the energy out of the river and divert those flows, you reduce the ability of the river to clean the gravels, and the fish need clean gravels on which to spawn. And if the fish can't spawn, then they can't reproduce, and if they can't reproduce, there's no food for the birds and the fish-eating birds like the grebes and the herons. So the whole chain of wildlife in the river is dependent on these healthy flows. And we really do not believe that the people who put this application in, and we really do not believe that the licence application took sufficient regard to the impact on fish and wildlife. That's why we're backing your campaign.
Yes, well, we're very pleased to have your backing, most definitely.
Hello, my name's Mary Carr. I'm one of the people who has been campaigning against this scheme to build a hydro on the Weir in Goring, because we feel very strongly that this is not the right place for it. We're not against these schemes as such, but the problem is that this is a particularly attractive site which has featured in things like Three Men in a Boat, and it is often photographed. It's a very important part of Goring, and it would be absolutely ruined if they build this hydro scheme here. It's an industrial scheme. It's totally out of keeping with the rural countryside that we have here, and it's also likely to be extremely noisy and therefore really spoil the environment for people who use it for many recreational purposes. They have outdoor theatre here and various things like that, and it's just going to ruin the village if they build it. So that's why we feel that it's just not the right thing to do for a really relatively small amount of electricity. If they were going to produce huge numbers of megawatts, thousands of megawatts, we would have to think seriously about whether the planet, what we were doing to save the planet was more important than preserving this view. But actually, the amount that they're going to produce is not going to be very high, and it's not going to benefit the villages at all. It's going to go into the national grid. So it's not as if it's going to be of any benefit to the local community.
I'm Diana Davis, and I'm a volunteer swan rescuer, so I'm very interested in wildlife and so forth. I'm very concerned about the amount of water and rubbish and one thing and another that will catch up behind the screws, and I think it's going to cause a lot of flooding at some time or other. We've had 3 bad floods recently, and I live in the mill, and I've had loads of rubbish come up against the weir, which is very, very difficult to get rid of. You can't always get staff, environmental agency staff, to come and clear it, and it causes a lot of flooding, and I've had flood water in the house 3 times since 2003, so I'm very concerned that it will affect it adversely with having the blockage up on the weir there.